Question of the day. What is your favorite obscure licensed property? Now, this game, obviously, you saw the title, you're thinking, that's not super obscure. Not super obscure, but more obscure than, say, your Star Wars or what's become of the H.P. Lovecraft section. But what about a more obscure type of IP? Now, for instance, in the sci-fi world, Dune is massive, but if you ask the person on the street who wasn't born and around in the 80s, they may not have a clue what Dune is, so Dune would be a good example. But let me know in the comments below what your favorite more obscure IP is to play in, whether that be good games, bad games, or just games in general. What's your favorite IP to play in? So let me know in the comments below. But today we're looking at a more obscure / really kind of popular IP. That would be the Oregon Trail, right? I grew up in a time when these were all over our school's library and you could play these. It puts me, you can date me obviously, early 30s. These were all over the school library. We could go and play the game. It was just a fun computer game, right? And so you've seen there's been a couple of these Oregon Trail games that have come out and tried to capitalize on the system of hopelessness and dysentery, and your aunt dies and your sister dies and literally everyone dies, and well, you just die, right? As you try to make it across the Oregon Trail, which, by the way, you can still see the ruts of the Oregon Trail today. It's a gorgeous historical moment when you see flash into the past. But anyway, let's take a look right now at what Oregon Trail, the Journey to Willamette Valley, the board game, does differently this time around. So here's the basic two-player setup right here. Everybody gets a player board. They start with 4 family member dice on level 5. This counts as your driver. They can't quite die the same way. You start with 2 food and 1 pistol. You also start with 2 tiles here. On your turn, you're going to do a couple of different things, basically trying to get from Independence, Missouri over to the Willamette Valley here. First person to reach there potentially wins the game. Basically, first person to reach here triggers the end, or the once all the tiles run out, you then count up who has the most points. Whoever has the most points wins the game. On your turn, what you're going to do is you're going to take you're going to discover a trail, and you potentially will also flip over one of these calamity cards. So you've got calamity cards, hunting cards, the upgrade cards, which are things like additional oxen and extra wagon extensions. So if you put this here, you'll be able to hold more things. Each wagon can hold 1 big good or 4 small goods, and those would be things like your different small goods would be the medicine, the compass, the meat, and the pistol, and the big goods would be spare parts, shotgun, winter clothes, and the hitchhiker. You can also take a hitchhiker who's worth money at the end of the game once you get over here to Willamette Valley. So when you discover the tile, you'll flip it up, put it out here. Now it'll tell you what type of tile it is, what type of building it is based on the different types. You have towns, which are that money symbol, which you can buy things at towns. You have forts, which you can buy things at forts. The different supplies are up there. You can always sell at these places too. You can sell at towns based on the market selling price over here. You also have rivers and then hunting tiles. And those have the little trees on them. Forts, just so you know, look like this here. That's a river tile, and that's a town tile as well. This one's special. You actually have to have winter clothes, which you can see the different items that are up there, the winter clothes and things like that. You'll then draw a calamity card. You will typically have to the end of the round unless it tells you to get rid of this if it's bad. Now, some of these are good, and it just gives you an additional ox for free. You'd put this up with your oxen, and you'd have an additional ox. Some of them are bad. Some of them say, do this by the end of the turn. Some of them are, hey, you suffer this right now, no matter what. You draw a calamity card, then you take 3 actions. You could move, you could hunt, you could buy, you could pick up a hitchhiker, or you could sell as some of these actions. And there's some free actions as well, which include like crossing a river. You notice that the river runs through that middle of that tile. You also have things like trade. You can avoid a calamity. These are all free. You can ditch one of your supplies or use medicine. If you decide to cross a river, you'll roll the river dice. You just need to beat that number. So it's a 2. You have to roll higher than a 2 currently, or you can sit there and end your whole turn and just stop and move across instead. That's one way to get rid of or get across the river regardless. It's a much safer way, but it obviously loses your whole turn. If you risk the river, you'll roll it. That's as a 1. I will immediately take damage equally across it, and it's the difference. The damage done is the difference less than the river number. So I would actually take just 1 damage, so someone would flip down to a 4. You have to distribute it evenly across these die. When you go to a hunting tile, now this is pretty neat. It's kind of a mini game here. Someone else will draw this hunting tile. They'll hold it up. I have to guess what this number is. So I take my pistol and I put it on a number. If this turns around and it's I have 4, well then I'm wrong. Now you can guess again as one of the actions with this same card held up. So it'd spend a second action to say, okay, I'm going to try here now. Boom, I got it right. Pistols go on numbers. Shotguns, obviously the bigger gray cubes, will go on the targets, and they count for both numbers, which you can in fact do this and put multiple things out. So you could cover 2 and then 4 and 5 if you had a shotgun here. So you get the meat once you've killed this, and then you move on. Obviously you'll need meat to survive, as well as certain calamities will require you to have meat. You can also sell meat for cash if you need to buy spare parts or winter clothes or things like that. If someone somehow dies along the route, wherever they die, you'll leave their tombstone in that slot. This would be a minus 450 points. The closer you get to Willamette Valley, the points become less for a minus, which is very, very morbid if you think about it, because you were close, but you still died. It's pretty simple. You add, here's the scoring, you add $500 for your driver, add $100 per point of health of everybody else. So the healthier you are, the more points you get. $400 per hitchhiker, $100 per column your wagon is away from Willamette Valley, and then subtract the amount shown at the bottom of each column where your headstone is. Whoever has the most points wins the game. That's how you play the Oregon Trail Journey to Willamette Valley. The components are nice looking. I do like the way these components look. They put some good work into that. So that's it. Willamette Valley does some things, obviously, that are reminiscent to the computer game. For instance, I like the fact that the hunting is a cool mini game, right? The idea that you're kind of taking a second out and playing a little bit of a guessing game with your opponent to see if you got the right amount of meat for the winter, right? I like the fact that you have to have certain items to get into those places, like the winter spaces. I like the fact that the dice represent your life and all that sort of stuff that you can count down, and it's neat. It's well put together, the ideas, but they just fall a little bit flat for me when it comes to the actual execution, because the game feels overly long and slightly too random. Like I feel like you're doing the same thing over and over, hoping for the best, hoping for whether it be good tiles, whether it be good cards, whether it be a good dice roll. There's just so many elements of luck involved that it just kind of takes away from the idea of strategy, which I get it. It's supposed to be brutal. It's supposed to be hard. That was the whole point of the Oregon Trail, right? Both in life and in the computer game. But this one just feels like it's overly tough because you have to balance so many things that are based on randomness. Well, what if the right kind of tile doesn't come out? Well, then you're stuck not having the ability to buy clothing or shotguns or bullets or food or anything like that, right? So you might just end up messed up. And I do like the idea that there's a market card that that changes, so you can sell things differently. It's just one of those things that it fell a little bit flat based on the fact that it was too long and too random. But the ideas were in there. The ideas were solid. And the components were nice, right? Those dice were nice. They look good. They're light, strangely. Lightwood dice, but they look good, right? So the idea was there. It just didn't come all the way through to completion for me. So this one's kind of a pass for me. But if you like the Oregon Trail and you really like all the things I just mentioned, then this one might be a pickup for you. It's definitely better than the card games because it actually does feel more complete, and there's not any kind of player elimination because you're playing against each other, not on the same team. So that is the Oregon Trail Journey to Willamette Valley. I'm Brian Drake here on the Dice Tower. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at TheLatestRetro. And until next time, I'll see you.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at DicetowerNetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower